You,
I feel like I did.
And Milosh. We are the only three. So we're in the corner of Pwns. We believe it's that. I know you were believing a bit last week, actually, to be fair, weren't you?
I mean, I was. And the thing is like, genuinely...
You weren't miles off.
I've never seen a team that's like so polarizing in terms of on the good maps that they play, they are very good. And on the bad maps, you know, the maps that they don't play, when teams have been able to get them onto them maps, they've looked really bad. So, Clubhouse is up there. It's their third preference map. It's a map they want to go to literally every week if they can. Now, moving through to BDS, and we'll come into the map bans in a second, but moving through to BDS on this map, they played against outsiders on this map, and it was a 7-5. But their performance, the way that they played, had they have played, I would say, quote-unquote, properly, it should have been a 7-2, but for some very small issues that cascaded into round losses. So for BDS, I'm looking for some improvement because they didn't play the map well, and I think Pwns on this map are better than what outsiders would be. So if BDS put up that same performance that they did last time that they played it, Pwns will definitely be there to capitalise on it.
You might find this game moves a bit quicker than you would normally expect as well. Kai taken away, but the Thatcher still left on the board. Does mean no Mute Mozzie holdups. Things should be plain sailing for both teams on the attack. And Valkyrie, unsurprisingly, going to be our last ban, which does leave the Mirror in play. Although, admittedly, we don't really see Mirror all that much, except for on Gym and Bedroom on this map fresh.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're getting not far off that standard ban. And particularly with the Clubhouse, is you're always going to see some, probably two, of any of the breachers plus Thatcher bans. So it's no surprise to see a Maverick and an Ace. You know, I'm really not surprised by any bans these days, to be honest. And then you've got the Kaid on the Valkyrie. But like you say, it will increase the pace of the attack significantly with the Thatcher being on the board.
Well, understandably, we're going to kick things off downstairs in Church and Arsenal. And looking at the lineup coming along from Pwns here, looking in towards things like the Malusi, potentially the Azami, you may well see a good bit of roaming coming through. Got that Warden on side, as a good number of teams enjoy employing, I think, more out of fear of seeing a Ying come through and not wanting to get smashed in the face by that repeatedly. But I think what you find with some teams, Fresh, is they drop away from playing that Warden into the later rounds in the half once they realise, actually, the Ying isn't really in their wheelhouse. They're not bringing it out here, right?
Yeah, I think you showed the Warden a couple of times early doors. You showed that you're happy to play it and willing to play it, and it's part of your strategies, and therefore teams will go away from Ying. Plus, I'll be honest, on Clubhouse, there's not a great deal of room, especially with the way that BDS will play Clubhouse, to bring a Warden. You've got to bring two breachers. With the Thatcher being open, you've almost definitely got to bring a Thatcher, and then you need some kind of verticality, which will be your sledge. So the only place that you could realistically replace a Ying here would be Finker, or you're suffering on a breacher front. So, you know, you're not going to take Shaiko off Finker for Ying. You're just simply not going to do it if you're BDS.
No way.
So, you know, I expect BDS to pretty much always run some kind of conventional lineup. Now, there's going to be kind of a false roam coming out from Pwns. They went up on top floor, did some reinforcements, but aren't actually going to play there. However, that makes BDS, it forces them into droning it and spending time making sure it's completely clear on the top two floors. You see in Playday, he was going to actually breach that jacuzzi wall. It looks like they've cleared it very quickly with drones, and he's going to save that thermite charge. So that's a good save of utility. Get to work on clearing out the mid floor with the drones, and then go down from there.
Yeah, they seem pretty happy here. They've got everything they need to on the clear through. So like you say, can put that focus on the downstairs. So to have an idea of what's going on inside about 60 seconds ain't bad, especially where, as you saw just there was a couple of mute jammers scattered around that top floor. You know, this is the reason why the SSG room, as it was known a good few years ago now, was so popular, was you waste so much time because you can't always drone through things. Sometimes you've got to nade them, you've got to go in a little bit blind. It can really slow the teams down. So good read by BDS to already start looking at the site. Arguably, Shaiko a little too far ahead of the team at this point, though. Did come pushing down blue, and now they've lost a Finker, a really critical operator to not have on the board anymore.
Shaiko always plays very segmented over on that blue Adam Stairs area, so I'm not surprised to see that Emission's taken an early peek to go and get him off the board and go and clear that position. Shaiko's an incredible player pushing late down there. It actually looks like Emission peeked up rather than Shaiko coming down, but that's Shaiko off the board, and it allows Pwns so much more freedom to front up this attack without the worry of a player coming to blue.
Now BDS have got to make it work, though, with the numbers they've got, right? Like, okay, it's not that... I don't want to say it's not a big loss because it's Shaiko. And like they spoke about on the desk, he has been their standout player this stage. We're seeing him back to that form that we're so used to. Exodus turning it into a second, taking the Thatcher off the board. A lot of those EMPs already used, so no big concerns on that side. But it does mean the remaining three members of BDS have got to claw together an attack here. Exodus hitting the deck, down but not out, as Rafal finally taken down too. So in a 5 versus 2, call it a 4v2 if you really want to as well. BDS have just fell apart before they've even got a chance to square up for an execute at this point, Fresh. And I always think back to the old BDS, the one that would hit you with 5 people at 70 seconds left, and you could do nothing about it. Playday's in for one, a C4 over the top, and Shiro's trying to find something, anything, gets a kill for his troubles, but can't find any more. A comfortable first round for Pwns.
Yeah, BDS are kind of struggling in this meta, and if you think about the way BDS used to play, it used to be 5 people at once. It used to be trying to find a kill out of BDS used to be so hard to find. Finding an engagement with just an individual player used to be so hard to find. You weren't able to use and abuse individual engagements the same way that BDS are offering up right now. Shaiko was alone. Then the next kill bottom main was alone whilst there's still verticality going on and there's people running around Armory. By the time they'd even done the verticality and got to the point of a setup, they were in a 2v5, and that's so uncharacteristic from BDS. And it's individual decision-making often, to be honest, from the players, that kind of cascades into that. For Pwns, really good understanding of how BDS would play it. Like I said, they do their homework very clearly, do their homework, and they also play the map in a manner that, you know, they understand how this map plays out and how it facilitates. WTG doesn't look like he understands how that Kiva barrier has gone across the floor rather than the top red area.
I don't understand either.
No, I don't. I think he's hit the floor with it. I don't think he's hit the barrier because obviously he wants to keep it. That's the awkwardness about the Kiva barriers. And if we see him throw the next one, he's got to put it low there so that it's able to be peaked over the top of. Because if he aimed it to the top of that barrier, it would simply be too high to peak. So there's an art to where you place it, and I think he's gone too low and hit the floor with that.
Yeah. Just touching on the end of that last round as well, you know, Playday dropped in through Hatch. I think back to when I first cast BDS years ago, and they were still doing that kind of execute. I can think of some really messy scraps around that. So maybe it's also the fact that BDS haven't changed much up here, and Pwns are like, well, we've seen them on Clubhouse dozens of times at this point. We have a good idea of what's going to come, and clearly it wasn't a bad read in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, PDS used to be the team that did the default, but did it better than everyone else. Yeah. That's not been the case so much anymore.
Ironically, old Empire style.
Yeah, absolutely ironically, as we're going to see the Thatcher, the Thermite, and the Hibana all come off at the same time. Emission's going to be too ready for that. We'll get the Bandit Trick. We'll actually get Bandit Trick on both of the hard breach. Now, the fact you've not got Ace or Maverick on the board, you can do that with Ace. You can go up close to the wall and get rid of both walls, or at least one wall, because of how fast the Ace charges go off. With Thermite and Hibana, that is simply not how it works. Shaiko will get an amazing timing, however, onto Exodus with that vertical nade.
That was some special time in there as well. You just saw the outline coming across on the left side of your screen, like, surely not, and Exodus just runs straight into it. So, a good bit of work being done by BDS, making use of those vertical nades and getting some damage done. Good stuff to kick things off. It is the entry they didn't manage to find in the last round, and Shaiko remains alive. Good stuff to keep that thinker on side.
However, they've not got the CCTV breach, which means Shaiko has to spend a lot of time, as you can see here, holding on to that CCTV window because they can't do it from the breach. Renshira's going to actually go in below to try and remove the mirror window, do a decent amount of work with the vertical nade and also looking up. Needs to be careful that he doesn't get double dropped on in terms of the hatch. Still trying to find an angle and finally does open that mirror window. But I've got to say, this is pretty awkward. Going from the jacuzzi side only, you can't play windows safely because you haven't got that breach. Pwns can basically front up this defense once again, even though they're in man disadvantage.
I know they've got a numbers advantage, but it still feels like it's building towards that head where they're not going to have everything they need at this point. But let's see what damage they can do. I know Rafał was looking in towards a Logi drop to push his way through. Alem's finding one. Rafał now thinking about this drop. It's WTG, low HP, manages to get a kill back on the other side before Shaiko steps in for the shutdown. And this is why killing this man is so critical. BDS finding their kills. Nico left alive now, scrambling back towards site. Will find one, looks for a second, unable to find him. A 3 versus 1. This feels pretty much done.
Yeah, absolutely. BDS doing a great job of finding control of cache and construction despite the fact that they didn't have a breach and an ingress to do so. They obviously had the man advantage, but also there was, for some reason, there was a Pwns player on the rotate all the way up the bottom floor. I think it was Nico who came up the main stairs
he came back up late.
I think he was trying to rotate to try and kill Renshiro below, but he went so slow in the mid round. If he goes and gets Renshiro, it's a completely different story. He can be faster, get himself back up to site. But he was so slow on the rotate that because he went, he actually manufactured essentially a 5v3 for BDS onto site. And you would back them to see out that man advantage.
It just reminds me a long time ago. There was a game that ended 6-6 between BDS and Vitality. And I remember at the time, a few people analysed it and essentially said, you know, Vitality came in prepared with the perfect counters to everything BDS did. And there was one round in particular where BDS had 3 players stationed inside construction. Their only way into site through the single doorway. They push in and they get every single kill and still win the round. And it's one of those where you were just like, what can you do against that? You've prepared for them perfectly. You put them in a massive gun disadvantage, and you still lose the round. This is before we had Finker and Iana being the go-to meta. It was against Old Vitality back in the day. So I just look at it and think we know that capability is there inside this BDS roster, and it's not quite the same they just pulled off in that round, but it was one of those, again, where you're asking questions, will they be able to get away with such convincing numbers at the end of this? And the answer absolutely was yes.
I'm actually surprised of the site rotation here. I'm actually surprised that they switched off the gym because, you know, obviously they had the vertical nade up that got the kill and they opened in entry def. That doesn't happen 9 times out of 10. You know, it was a very unfortunate timing on the rotate back from Exodus. Then they had Nico and Narnia, but realistically, those two things don't happen. They've got a fighting chance at that round. They clearly felt there was bigger issues than potentially even I've seen there, and they've decided to go to what is a weaker site in CCTV cache.
I'm kind of loving how many problems Rico's actually causing as well. The Bandit across the last couple of rounds has been him, and you know, even with the Thatcher on side, with no Maverick's obviously not available as well, it has been a bit of a headache for them. Trying to stun underneath the wall here, yeah, it feels a little bit kind of gimmicky. If you get away with this, he'll be going through the hole as well, finding out on the bottom side, no one underneath to try and deny anything away, not that it is required, as that exit permit will go off, and the wall has been opened up.
That's OG Bandit tricking and stunning yeah, I've not seen that in a long time. But it's good to see the BDS, you know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you can have an old dog use its old tricks, and that's exactly what BDS have done there, using the Sophia stun in combination with the factory MP. So that's the wall established. Now the next thing for the attack, once you've established CCTV wall, is are you going to go for the construction side take, or are you going to go for the garage side take? Because that's your next problem. You need to pick another room that you need to attack, and whether that be construction or garage. It looks that Breeday's outside of garage, and there's a soft wall on garage, by the way, with a wall in pocket for Pwns. Not sure why they haven't reinforced that, but it looks like BDS are gonna go for garage. They've managed to open it with the RC Rotero. You might think that Breeday might also open the other single panel, but that seems clumsy to me from Pwns.
Well, they still have Shaiko, please. Bring it down side there on Catwalk for free. I remember a couple of teams left this soft, actually, and used it to be able to challenge on the outside pretty much immediately, but Pwns don't really strike me as the kind of team that want to try and employ that sort of gameplay against BDS. Maybe it was a time issue because they've still got one reinforcement in back pocket as well. Whatever the reason, it's been left open. It gives a very quick, easy entry for BDS. We're into that last 50 seconds, though, at this point, fresh 4v5.
Yeah, but the big problem here is that the garage player has died to Shaiko. Now, he needs to value his life. If he was still alive, you would see this whole game of cat and mouse and ADSs going off, as Shaiko is just trying to bait out any peaks here. But he hasn't, which means 35 seconds for BDS is more than enough to actually plan and execute here.
Nico finding one back on towards the lem. Shaiko kind of second-guessing himself quite a bit here as a man comes in through the rotate. I was going to say, he saw him every day of the week. It's far too easy. Breeday's in, holding F for the defuse to go down, and Mission finds a second onto Rafal. As Breeday gets C4 at the last second, the defuse won't go down. Shaiko turns his attention south. He finds a 4, make it a 5. This man cannot be stopped.
What do you say about that? Simply, Shaiko has just walked in and killed absolutely everybody, and he simply does it in every single game. Did it on the cafe game a couple of weeks ago against Heroic, and he's done it there today against Pwns. Finds the kill on Catwalk, finds the kill top red, and just takes that ground for free. Even when Breeday was down but not outplanting the diffuser, has Shaiko used his Finker boost? Nope. He's just peeking absolutely everything. Had he died, massive liability to his team there. But it's Shaiko and just gets everybody with everything. Hasn't reloaded once. That is unreal gameplay. And that is what he has done all season long, by the way, when BDS have absolutely needed it. Because it was getting a bit clunky right down at the end there, especially when Breeday got C4'd.
It's what makes me a bit nervous, and I've been really excited about Rogue versus Wolves on the next Playday. That's going to be game of the season for me. Like, it's going to be so good to watch. And I've kind of been watching the two teams over the last couple of weeks to evaluate where the strengths come in. And looking at Wolves today, we cannot ignore Mowgli absolutely gleaming, right? Doing a wonderful job. You can kind of say the same about the other French team in the league in BDS, that when it's Shaiko shining and doing well, then winning rounds. That's exactly the story in this game. Shaiko was the entry death in round 1. The team fell apart. The next 2 rounds, he's got the entry or walked on to get an ace. They've won them. How weird. It almost relies on these individual players to do super well. I don't want to kind of boil everything these teams down just to one player and say, well, it's a one-player army. Of course, it's absolutely not. But you cannot deny the kind of impact they're having in these rounds so far. Yeah,
and I think, like I say, if he hadn't have used his Finker boost, well, he didn't use his Finker boost. If he'd have been killed there with Breeday down on the plant, there would have only been one person out on the breach. So that was a massive risk taken. I don't think the rest of BDS were particularly ready for it. And that's one thing that we have seen, is that Shaiko's been the front runner, right? And the rest of BDS have been, for a lot of time, quite passive behind him. So it is something that has been used and abused by other teams, and it's one thing that BDS needs to be super careful, because that round, but for Shaiko going nuclear on an ace, could have gone a different way.
Will he see it from here as well? Oh, gets it out as well. I think he does get rid of it there. Yes, he does. That's one of them down, and I like the change up here in a way. This feels like a really OG mirror window as well, by the way, to open it up and deny things away with impacts. But I like it because we've seen Bandit tricking. Now we're seeing the impact tricking. So Pwns are actively trying to put up a defense against the utility coming in for BDS and trying their damnedest not to let this descend into a game of frags.
Yeah, it makes this breach super scuffed, by the way, the fact the impact tricking coming out. And I think that was baited out by a Lems there, was just putting the Habana pellets on and then peek. But Mission will just continue peeking the breach and find a kill onto a Lems. There's Shaiko with his customary kill him literally every round. Has found one straight away back onto WTG.
This could be one of those games for Shaiko. He's seen Mowgli shine and goes, you know what? He can't be the main French kid that everyone's talking about. It's my time to do the business. Here, looking at, they are setting up out towards construction. So that's where you've got two players starting to square up for a potential push through. For most opponents here, they've got themselves sat at the top of red. I think there's 2 or 3 players around here now behind mirror windows, sat behind the Aruni laser gates with the Banshee arm in them. They've got all the tools to hold back a construction push, but have got to be so careful about a push coming in from the breach side.
And the big problem is that Habana's dead, which means you can't get the CCTV breach or this breach onto the mirror window. They're going to have to nade or simply win out gunfights. And who would you back to win out gunfights? Anybody. Shaiko will win them, and that's what we're seeing here.
The easy 2K just walks in the round and is no doubt looking for more here as well. A Mission slightly panicked because he knows there can be one off towards breach. We have that wonderful power of outlines. You can see it's not the case. Renshiro into another. Shaiko finally put in the dirt, but there's still 3 left alive. BDS make it 3 in a row.
He just struts his stuff. Is there a mirror window? Check. Is there an Aruni gate? Check. Can you do any realistic breaching? Have we even got the construction wall open? Check. No. Check. Walks in, gets killed. And he could have picked either side of the window to pre-fire there. Well, I guess when you look in, it's in, right? Because the mirror window was peekable from either side. He's picked the perfect side, baited out the peek, and got the kill. Sensational game coming out with Shaiko here. Is that 10 and 1 after 4 rounds or 10 and 2?
Unreal. Absolutely. And one of those obviously being an ace as well, but to still pick up 2Ks, 3Ks throughout, it's just one of those kind of games. And the thing is, I feel for Pwns, I don't feel that they haven't been actively trying to play the game. They've been trying to deny. They've got Bandit tricking out. They've got mute jammers across the top floor. Now they're trying to full-on SSG roam in this round as well. They are actively trying to play the map, but Shaiko's just saying, boys, you can keep playing SimCity all you like. We're playing a real FPS here.
He's taking a lot of risks, like even just walking in facing against the mirror window. And I guess this is, you know, I hate to put a dampener on things, I really do, but when Shaiko gets punished for those risks that he's taking, his teammates haven't been able to pick up the rounds. When he isn't punished and he's able to get these 2Ks, 3Ks, that's, Pwns played that almost perfectly, but for 2 people peeking onto Shaiko and dying.
I mean, one of them was a pre-fire onto behind the mirror window, right? If you've got that mirror window, you're backing yourself in most cases to win the gunfight as well, knowing you have the info and they don't. And you still lose out to an LMG pre-fire anyway. It's just why you keep seeing things like Finker being banned away for this exact kind of reason. Either way, let's get into it now. I mean, also referring to, of course, he plays Iana, ARX, 20 shots. Not doing anywhere near as much damage, or at least not as much over that amount of time. Let's see how this round shapes up, though. We've got that Mutant Mossy on side once again. No Thatcher being brought along by BDS, who opt to say, you know what, we've got a better game plan here as well. We don't need it. We can focus on getting things cleared out and just hit the site hard with that Monty.
Yeah, they tend to just ignore the roam, basically. Wait for the rotate back down. You see LMs, he's been very patient here. And I'm wondering, as you say, if BDS just go pretty much straight into sight and force the rotates back down, it looks like it's going to be that, and try and rely on that defender rotation to basically imitate and create chaos. We're going to see it. Who else has got that entry kill? Shaiko's in. He's into sight. Rafal's walked in, found 1, found 2 on the Monty, and suddenly we're in a 5v2 scenario. Pwns have absolutely fallen apart already.
He just makes it look easy. It's another plan going down. This world could be a flawless round coming through unless Exodus can get back at this point what feels like a consolation kill. He cannot. BDS are just tearing through Pwns in what I thought might be a more competitive game. That's why they haven't really turned up at this point, because Shaiko's walking the show.
But just a quick word on Pwns, because they've been very hit and miss. And now I thought it was map pull as to why they would be hit.
Chucking at a wall where there's gadgetry behind, whether it's Banshees, whether it's jammers, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's magnets. You'll just burn through it and remove a lot of obstacles for yourself in one go. So I don't want to say let's wait and see how Pwns do in the second half, because it's not that clear cut. This could well end up being a 7-1, 7-2 to the side of BDS, who are walking their way through it, but you just don't know what you're going to see in that second half. Let's see then who's going to be the superhero for Pwns in round 6, because my God, do they need one.
And one thing that I touched on about BDS, and BDS touched on themselves, is when they played this map against Outsiders, they started on the defense, and their defenses were and have been particularly sloppy over the last couple of weeks. However, when they got on the attack against Outsiders, they looked really damn good, because it is very process driven, and that's what BDS do well, is the processes. So even though they've skipped a couple of processes in a couple of these rounds, as we say, with Shaiko, but more often than not, BDS will always do well on the attack of Clubhouse. So like you said, get to the split and then see what happens after that. Going back down to Church Arsenal, it looks like it's obviously going to be some kind of default turtle setup, and then with a bit of extension out to main stairs, shoot a couple of drones from Exodus and fall back. Keep yourself safe in and around site, especially with the mirror windows. I think this is the right play for Pwns.
I like how they've tried 3 different setups as well, right? I mean, looking back into round 1, we had the Warden, for example. This round, we got the mirror. We had the SSG roam in the previous round. They've tried 3 different things, so they aren't just saying, oh, if we keep on trying the same thing, then surely it will work, right? They've always got a different idea. Shaiko moving forwards under the cover of that nade, clearing out the mute jammer on his way through, and now has control of blue. Maybe hoping to find someone looking to push on the upstairs, which makes you think maybe it hasn't been fully droned out yet by BDS, who now they've got inside the building, to take a little bit of time to figure out exactly what's going on.
Yeah, that's that risk taking that we mentioned, is the fact that he's just gone in there without a full appreciation of Lounge. The problem is he's earned the right to do that with all the kills that he's got. He's earned the right to take that little bit of risk and the respect from Pwns that they won't be ratting out in any random staircases or corners. Good fast pace here from BDS. They started the verticality with 2 minutes to go. That is very fast on a Church Arsenal take.
Absolutely. I mean, I always tend to say if teams are playing an SSG roam and you get down to smashing the floor to pieces at like the 1 minute mark remaining, you're not in an awful spot. Obviously, you'd always take more, but at least you've got enough time to get the business done. Whereas here, BDS have got essentially double that to work with. So if it all falls apart from here, they'll be absolutely kicking themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Wrench is going to do a lot of work up and above, especially the hallway. He's not focused too much on above armory yet, trying to identify the hallway. BDS, they might work down the main stairs here, but it gives them a lot of options. The fact that all hatches will be opened, you see the mirror here as the reinforcement will go off and the Thatcher come out.
That's the EMP.
That's the EMP, the wall will go off, happy days. And that's the breach coming out. Gives BDS so many options. The fact that all of the breach hatches are open, and the fact that also Church Wall is going to be open, even if very slightly.
That was very quick reactions, getting the shotgun up towards the top, the impact nade over the top. It keeps the mirror window intact as well. Great bit of team play coming out from Pwns. And again, leaning into the whole thing we said earlier on around they are playing this well and they are doing the right things. BDS are just hitting them a little bit harder. Here we come to that last 45 and Shaiko is daring this man to step across from Jen, daring the man to step through the rotate to the right. He's so close to both of them, but neither of them giving an inch so far. You got Playday now looking to open up the wall. They know where the plant's going to come in. It's behind the black box or behind the half bar. And they know surely there's at least one player hanging on the other side. Alems bringing down Exodus inside of sight. Church is starting to open up. Time to get praying, Pwns.
And this is the part where Shaiko's going to drop late, and they've got a massive appreciation that there's 2 people kind of looking towards it, and as Breedays goes in for the plant, that's when Shaiko's going to go, and it involves going together. Pwns have got to front this up. Shaiko drops, gets one, but gets instantly traded out. Nico finds another onto Breeday, and it's all gone a little bit wrong. Lems and Renshiro left in it. Lems is going to try and force plant with 3 seconds to go. Will be smoked. No, he won't be smoked out.
No way.
Renshiro finds one, and Lems is going to stay stiff, and Renshiro has the cover. Massive round, massive clutch in the 2v2 there.
Massive for Renshiro there, essentially in a 1v2 as well. Not only was the planter on about 2 HP, he was planting. He was out of action. You always see those situations as a 2 versus 1, but Pwns simply can't pull it back, despite, again, showing some of the right moves. 2v1 in Shaiko to make sure he only finds 1 kill. The problem is everything goes off on the breach. They get in and get the plant. It's just one of those rounds where it felt like Pwns had something going, and then BDS snatched it away at the last drop of the hat. Wonderful half from BDS. A lot of it, yes, riding on Shaiko, but you can't ignore it's still a 5-1.
That play there from Renshi, because Renshiro's had pretty indifferent stage so far, along with pretty much the rest of BDS, but also with Rafael and Breeday as well. Very passive stages from all of them in terms of the players. But generally, Renshiro has been one of the key suspects in the bad decision-making for BDS and why things have gone wrong. Bad individual making on his part, individual decisions and decision-making on his part. I hope that 2v2, because completely just won that round for BDS.
Yeah.
I hope that is a big confidence boost for him, and he then gets back, you know, off the back of that, gets back to the ways that we kind of know and love and the performances we expect from him. Because this BDS performance so far, yes, you said it's spearheaded by Shaiko, but it's the BDS that we've kind of come to expect.
Wow.
You know, I know it's against Pwns, who have been one of the weaker teams in the league, but it is a performance that BDS haven't realistically put in this stage.
This is a really curious setup from BDS. I was just a joke. The only time you knew they were ever trying to roam was when they changed one pick, and that was Alems going on to a Valkyrie. But here, they've gone balls to the wall. They've thrown everything out on this drone. They've got the Vigil, they've got the Mozzie, the Castle. Even the Aruni arguably could be out there as well. Their only really defense on site is the Capcan, no doubt with some of those scattered around downstairs to stop any would-be rushes coming through. So now the question really turns on towards the side of Pwns, and what are you going to do about it? And looking at the Fuse on their side, they need to have vertical control, which means you've got to clear the full length of the map. So they've got to start on top floor, work their way through the Mozzie, the Vigil, all these intel denial operators, and clear them out before they can even think about the site.
1 minute wasted, and if we compare and contrast, at 2 minute mark, BDS, when they were attacking the basement, were already in the vertical over kitchen. And then they were trying to get the vertical into sight. BDS, they're staying completely stubborn on this top floor, really forcing Pwns to come and clear them out. And eventually, they will drop themselves back. Probably this will be the trigger point. Get a couple of kills, get yourselves back to sight now, lads.
When you got rid of Shaiko, that's the key to win a round, right? Right? Absolutely not. At this point, it's 4v2 for BDS. Again, decimating Pwns in the round. And getting cheeky here. Everyone's out the window. Gets a little bit too big for his boots, and WTG puts him in the dirt. Still, of course, on the Fuse here. Not really something you're looking towards saying, yeah, this will be really helpful for us, because BDS, they aren't too bothered about hunkering down just yet. They're in a spot where it's a 3 versus 2. And you can see on the side of Pwns how cautious they're being. They've only got a couple of drones they can make use of, plus any flank drones that are out and about. And there it is. WTG put in the dirt as one comes out. They had no idea if Foul was still on the upstairs, and now Exodus, who's only found 2 kills for himself in the entire game, has somehow got to win this round solo.
Yeah, it's going to be realistically hard, and there's massive commitment to BDS, from BDS onto the roam. To be honest, had Pwns spotted that, had they, you know, spotted it and seen it, they might have been able to identify something on site, but they tried to clear it, and BDS simply, I don't think they had an expectation that BDS simply had too many bodies upstairs on the roam and would keep throwing bodies at the problem until it became the solution. Exodus, like I say, he's in a 1v2, he's on the top floor, he's had a bit of a drone, knows his main stairs are clear, and that's pretty much it at this point.
I think maybe that laser gate being taken out should have been heard by Renshiro. The bar comes up, as you say. They know where exactly what he's going for here and where he's trying to drop. And the one at the bottom of main stairs, of course. They haven't seen the downstairs so far in the round. And he runs straight into the Capcan. How unfortunate. But everyone packs a bit of insurance every now and then, huh?
I saw it late and I was just like, is it? Oh, yeah, it is. How fitting that in the end. And that's the lack of information. That's why when you can't clear the roam and simply the roamers get so many kills out on the roam, you don't have the information in the end. He got the drone to bottom main stairs, had no idea where the Capcans were. There was 3 based in bar, there was 1 based in bathroom. Realistically, he could have ran through any of them and died. And it's just, you've got to make it work in the end. But BDS, excellent on the roam, a big commitment to it, and a big double down on the roam and the engagements, rather than using the trigger point to get back to site.
I mean, this is kind of what would make things easier. If there was 1 player off on the roam, we could look at Pwns and go, boys, you've had all 5 of you pushing the top floor, and you've lost 2 players trying to push this 1 guy. What is going on? The problem is we saw for BDS 3 players grouped together inside of construction. They were not giving up that top floor for Toffee. They really wanted to fight and hold it, and that's exactly what they did. And Pwns, sadly, were the ones who paid the price. They've now got 1 last chance to keep this game going. Otherwise, our night of really rapid games, we've had a 7-1, a 7-0, potentially another 7-1. Man, this will have been a quick day. Blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah, I know. I was looking forward to casting with you, Des, but I've got to ask, when does the game start?
Right,
because both of these games, like you say, Rogue was a 7-0 and this is shaping up to be a 7-1. All is not lost for Pwns. All is absolutely not lost for Pwns yet. But they've just got to keep plugging through it. I think BDS are full of confidence, and that's been a big issue for them, though, so it's not going to be an easy one. They've chosen to go to Gym. Now, obviously, Gym's their second site. They don't want to play Cash CCCV unless they absolutely have to, and it's going to be a pretty default horizontal extension out towards the east. WTG's can't say his name, is going to try and get a little bit cheeky through the drone hole. Try and say WTG and cheeky in the same word. Trying to get a kill through the drone hole, only gets chip damage onto a
Use your letters.
Oh, mate, I can barely speak English as it is, and the frequency and the pace of this siege.
Always. It's beautiful stuff, isn't it? Well, here we go then. They're holding the angle, waiting for this retreat back in towards site. Exodus in a good spot, but watching it banged off that window any second now by Shaiko as he tries to step back through. I think he knows that he's there, and he's just saying, look, come on now, come on. Come on now, just give me 2 seconds. Just one more second. Come on. Now? Come on.
Shaiko plays this position. It's well known. He played it a lot against outsiders, and he's always played this position between the construction window and the master window. And he's a menace. There will be a jump in to try and deal with him. Exodus will jump in and jump back out. Like I say, that position's well known. Exodus has played that situationally excellently there to just jump in after hearing Shaiko shoot the bullets and then jump back out.
He had to take the risk, right? Otherwise, you keep on trying to play this straight siege. Well, things are not going to go to plan as BDS has shown you across 6 of the last 7 rounds. In fact, 6 rounds back to back. It was back in round 1 when Pwns last won. Feels like a long distant memory, but it is based on a true story. Alem's now still holding inside of construction, looking to try and challenge a little bit out towards Cash and CC as they now start to concede control. BDS still have control of the site, but are down a couple of players here. It comes back to that big question. With Shaiko off the board, can Pwns get the round over the line?
It's still winnable for BDS. That's the thing, is that because Pwns are coming completely from one direction so far, it's completely the Cash side across. WTG is going to expend his second ferment charge on the construction single wall to enable that one direction push a little bit more. But there's going to be nothing Jacuzzi side, nothing main stairs side, which means BDS can currently front it up, even if they do end up leaving logistics. It's still winnable, given the fact that there's only 50 seconds left, and they've only essentially got to look in that direction of the east side.
And this is the thing, they're trying to open up all these areas to come pushing in, but there is different areas of resistance being offered by BDS. However, the numbers now thinned out. Alem's off the board. It's looking a little bit dicey. They've got the ping out into South Balcony as well. There's 2 coming in through Logi. It should all fall apart at this point. There we go. Pwns getting their second round of the game, but there is still a very tall mountain to climb.
Yeah, fortune favours the brave realistically for this particular round in terms of getting in, getting that kill on Shaiko and getting themselves back out. Really liked that play, was a big fan of it. And then once again, the numbers advantage is so simple and so clear on Clubhouse, is that once you've got the numbers advantage, you put the defenders under so much pressure and they feel the need to peek out. And that's essentially when you then punish them. And that's exactly what Pwns did. That's one step on a very long road to redemption inside this game.
I mean, I'm not saying correlation or causation all the time, Fresh, but in the 2 rounds that Pwns have won, Shaiko's been the first death. A mission back in round 1.
God, what a liability Shaiko is. How dare he be the first death in 2 rounds?
You are literally costing your team rounds, Shaiko. How dare you, right? I mean, the data don't lie.
I reckon he needs to change out his operators now. Get him off the alibi, get him on the frost so that can't happen. Because that is the direct counter. This is like one of Ace's TikToks where he's like, how did I die here? And I'd comment and I'd be like, if you were playing Frost, that wouldn't happen.
But somehow Ace would always find a way, even if he was playing Frost, to somehow walk into his own Frost mats. The man is a magnet for them. I'm sure you found that out in Ranky a few times. He's a nightmare.
Yeah, he can be. He dies the most unfortunate deaths in Rankies. I'm sure Shaiko is going to have a bit more of an appreciation of that window in this round.
I'm looking towards that Amaro and thinking, what's the sneaky plan? It's always worth stressing.
No,
it's not all about entry in towards site. I was going to say, this might be a little bit overkill, bro. Ooh. A mission? You good?
Fortune favours the brave, Des.
It does, but it also punishes fools. So he's got to be really careful here about either A, coordinating it with team, or B, knowing it's safe to go on the other side.
No, there's no bandit trick either.
Here we go. He's thinking about it. He's trying to thrive on the chaos here. He's straight in. There's no on the stairs. Charge his way straight up. Siler's got the entry. What about towards Logi? In fact, Siler got that clear. So now they can look at sight. They've got full control. There's a man in bathroom. He didn't know about him as well. Playday. Explosions all around, but still fighting on. Eventually goes down at 3 versus 2 as Alems and Rafal left to try and recover this one. Rafal on the downstairs. C4 from below will get pulled, but they've already rotated off. Good read. Alems finding one back. Surely, Fresh. Surely we don't see another 2 versus 2 go the way of BDS. What a shot from Rafal. A 1v2 Exodus. It's now or never, buddy. Stats from above coming down, but Rafal wins it out. BDS take the 7-2, and despite the chaos of that last round, they hold firm.
That was an excellent 2v3 in the end, especially there. And it was especially as the C4 goes off, Alems has picked and peeked out and found the pick to get its 2v2, and sensational play there to get up the main stairs and get 2 kills from the bandit in the end. BDS, on the whole, really well controlled.